AI is rarely introduced to replace decision makers outright. Instead, it is introduced to support decisions, to analyze faster, to recommend options, or to improve consistency. As a result, most organizations believe that decision responsibility remains firmly human. This presentation explains why that belief is often wrong and how responsibility can erode even when humans formally remain involved in decisions. Organizations often believe that as long as AI is positioned as decision support, well, responsibility remains unchanged. Formally, humans still approve outcomes and remain accountable on paper. In practice, AI reshapes how decisions are framed, influencing what options are visible, reasonable, and defensible. As a result, humans increasingly validate AI outputs rather than independently decide, and responsibility becomes difficult to locate when outcomes are challenged. In most workplaces, AI does not make final decisions. Humans still sign off, approve, or validate outcomes. From a distance, decision authority appears unchanged. However, this surface continuity hides deeper changes in how decisions are actually formed and how responsibility is carried. AI integration usually follows a predictable progression. It begins as optional assistance that professionals actively question. As AI proves useful, it becomes a reference point against which human judgment is oriented. Eventually, AI output becomes the default, and not following AI requires justification while following it feels safe. Responsibility shifts along this progression, even if formal roles do not change. One of the most common misunderstandings in AI supported work is the belief that review equals decision making. Review often focuses on surface plausibility rather than deep evaluation. Deciding requires judgment, weighing trade offs, and accepting consequences. When review replaces decision making, responsibility weakens even though human presence remains. As AI outputs become familiar and reliable, they turn into reference points. Human involvement shifts from weighing options to confirming results. This shift is gradual and often invisible. Responsibility does not disappear suddenly, it erodes through routine reliance on AI supported outputs. Human in the loop is often treated as a safeguard. In reality, it guarantees only that a human touched the process. Without explicit authority and decision ownership, the human becomes a procedural checkpoint rather than a decision maker. This creates a false sense of control while responsibility quietly weakens. Under time pressure, professionals rely more heavily on AI outputs. Questioning AI slows work and introduces friction. In fast moving environments, deferring to AI often feels like the rational and responsible choice. Ironically, these conditions are precisely when responsibility is most at risk. AI assisted decision failures often appear long after decisions that caused them. Early warning signs are subtle and easy to rationalize. By the time harm becomes visible, decision patterns are already normalized and responsibility become contested rather than clear. AI assisted decisions are rarely made by a single individual. Data, models, workflows, and multiple roles all contribute. Without explicit ownership, responsibility fragments across people who were never designed to carry it. This makes accountability difficult to establish after the fact. Responsibility requires more than participation. It requires explicit ownership of decisions, authority to override AI output, and accountability that persists even when outcomes are negative. Without these elements, responsibility exists only in theory. AI does not remove responsibility, but it changes where and how responsibility operates. If responsibility is assumed rather than intentionally designed, the failure is a matter of time. Responsible AI at work depends on designing responsibility into decision making, not merely keeping humans nearby.